right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I appreciate everyone's patience as we let everyone get connected and logged in. Thank you all for joining us today and taking time out of your day. Today's webinar is going to be a little bit different than normal because we are kind of combining two in one, just because we kind of ran out of time with different things going on and we needed to get them both done. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about um, just getting ready for the wreath year for wreath day this year and getting ready for the season, some fundraising ideas, stuff like that for you guys who are, group leaders and location coordinators. And then at the end, we'll stop, we'll have a time for questions, and then we're gonna split off. And anybody who is not a location coordinator can go ahead and leave because it will not apply to them beyond that point. And then we're just gonna have a time where we talk specifically about different things that pertain to some of our locations. So it's hard to believe that it's already that time of year again where we have a lot going on. Everything is in full swing. And I hope you've all had the chance to check out some of the updates in our system. All of these updates were designed to make your role as volunteer easier. We have provided tools to help save time, connect with sponsors, engage with volunteers, and keep your community updated. And you can log in today at that manage.reachacrossamerica.org. If you have any issues getting logged in, just reach out to your liaisons. That seems to be the most difficult part about some of these new updates is logging in. Once people get logged in, they're finding it very easy to use. So our updated dashboard makes it easier than ever to communicate with your sponsors and volunteers. And these tools are designed to help you grow your local support throughout the year. First, you'll notice that highlighted messages, which is under the messaging tab. These are pre-scheduled messages created by our team. These are messages that are designed based off things that we have found work, things that we have found calls to action that have worked successfully for other groups, other locations, and our organization as a whole. And you can simply activate it. You just go in to use the template, click turn it from pause to active, and that will send on that date. You can change that date if you want to send it sooner or later. That is just a date we kind of picked based off, again, kind of the timeline of what we have found has worked in the past. Those are the first campaign message is scheduled to go out this Friday on the 17th. So if you haven't logged in and taken a look at those yet, I do encourage you to take a look and schedule that message and see how it goes. You can, once the messages are sent, you can actually see your reach. You can see any responsorships that have come from it. It'll kind of tell you the overall count. So you can see if these messages are successful too. So it's a great way to kind of gauge, like, do I want to keep using these? Or if you want to change them up and add to them, add your own touch to them as well. Next, we have the thank you messages, and these are used to acknowledge sponsors after a campaign or event. A quick thank you goes a long way. It helps sponsors feel appreciated and encourages them to stay involved. And it's a one-click we have. It's under their promote. There's a send thank yous underneath that promote button. And when you go in there and you send that message, again, you can send them one at a time and customize them if you'd like. Or if you click on the button that says send requests, it'll send them to any that you have not already sent to in bulk. And it's just a very templated message, but you can't customize them if you do it in bulk. Third, we have added the reorder requests. And again, that's underneath that promote section of your dashboard. And when you go there, it just says send reorder request. And it's a great way for reaching out to sponsors who supported last year but haven't yet this year. It's going to send them an email that's going to have a link right in it. When they click on that link, it's going to put their past order in their cart. So it'll take them directly to their cart on the Reach Across America page. So if they've supported your location, your group before, it's already going to be connected. So where, you have sometimes issues where people, maybe go to the wrong link, or they go to the main page and then try to find you. Maybe they sponsor your location, but they forget to add your group. If you are like in your group page or you're in your location page and use those send reorder links, it is almost a foolproof way I say almost because there's always, there's always a possibility that someone still goes and wanders and removes it or whatever. But that reorder link is going to pop those items right into their cart so that they can easily just repeat their sponsorship from last year. So it's a great way to get those people active where they just maybe have forgotten, or, people sometimes forget, oh my gosh, oh yeah, it's already time for me to sponsor my wreath again. So we don't want them to wait till it's too late. So if you go in, you can send those just like the thank you messages, either one at a time, or you can send them in bulk. And it's going to send them, if you send it to all, it'll tell you if you have 10 reorder messages and you've already sent three, it'll say, do you want to send the other seven? So it's going to send whatever has not already been sent in bulk. Can't edit them if you're doing it by bulk, but it is a super easy way to quickly get the word out to those past sponsors. And then we also have our general messaging, which is what we've had in the past. And it's just their templates that, again, we have created that we have found have worked for other people, for other groups, for other locations. And there you can customize any of them. You just select your audience and then add whatever information you may need, or you may not need anything, and you can just send it as is. You can schedule those to send in the future, or you can schedule them to send, immediately. And those are a great way to just stay, in touch with your community, letting them know what's going on, letting them know of events, and just connecting with them. So every group that is registered with us receives a free online page that you can use to collect donations online. And there's no fees associated with this, so it's a really easy way for you guys to get the word out there and get sponsorships. You have full access to customize these pages. And I encourage you to customize them because we do find that people who customize their pages and make them stand out a little bit more, especially if you're customizing them to match your community, your events that you're doing, it's going to draw more support because people go there, they see it, they're like, oh, this is my cemetery up the road. This is, where my, Uncle John is buried. I want to, support them. Or, if your group is doing a fundraising event and you've got, people involved, have that be your background photo, your banner photo, just an easy way to stand out and really make your page catch people's attention. You can also upload a logo if you are with an organization, like this one has the American Legion Auxiliary on there. So Air Patrol, any groups that have a logo, you can pop that on there, and it just kind of is a way to bring attention to the organization you support as well. And the text in here is all edited. You can edit any of it. And it's just a great way to let them know about current events that are coming up. If you're a fundraising group and you've got a big fundraising event coming up, update that to share that information so people can come and join you there. If you're a location, it's a great way to use this to share information about the ceremony. If there's a specific place they need to be, if there's, parking instructions or anything like that that you feel necessary that would help people have a better experience. This is where you can update that so people can see it. We also have page alerts, and those are right in your dashboard. They're really easy to add there. And when you have a page alert, it is a box that is going to pop up when they come to your page. So literally they can't miss it. They have to, close it to move on to your page. So if you have a big fundraising event, that is a great way to catch people's attention. If you're doing some advertising, and you've got your link out there and you have an event coming up, you can put that event on that page alert, so when people come to your page, it says, hey, come join us locally at whatever time and place and dates, to try to get that community to come out to some of your events. And the new updates that we have in the dashboard make it really easy for you to customize these pages, and you can kind of see it live how it looks. But if you have any issues, if you run into any problems, your liaisons are always there to help. So each group that is registered on location, they also receive customized resources. We've already done the work for you. We've got everything with your QR codes, your links, everything that we think that you may need at some point. We've got it ready for you to just, kind of plug and play and go. So this right here, you can see is our poster, the WAA poster. This is a great resource to use if you have events coming up, if you're a location and you want to share information about your ceremony, if you're a group and you want people to come out to your ceremony, you can share this and people can scan the QR code to go right to your group page or location page so that they can sponsor a wreath. If you're going to be at an event, this is a great thing to print add the order form on the back of this and you can hand it out. So people have a way to either where they can order it online or they can mail that order form in. So they have multiple options. If you have a booth somewhere set up and you can, have these kind of stacked so people can um, pick them up and just kind of take them with them. But the poster is also great. Ask around town, go to, I have locally here, our UPS store has one up on their board because there's another location that goes there to get printing done. And so they always have their poster up. So any stores or, most people are going to be willing to spread the word of your, ceremony for you. And it's also going to help get those re-sponsorships, but we want them to come out to on Wreath Day and participate with you guys too. And if you are looking for any of your forms and you have not seen them, reach out to your liaisons. They can always send you another copy of those. So I also want to talk a little bit about some of our fundraising resources that we have, because obviously this is the time of year everyone's out there, getting ready to do events, or you've already been doing events all year, and you need, a new creative thing to try because you've tried everything else. So we have a fundraising idea guide, and we did a real big revamp on it. I say we, Megan did, not me. A big revamp on that, and we're very appreciative for it because it's a great way to just kind of take a look through and get it kind of how to get started. It walks you through details for fundraising ideas and it dives into the strategies behind those as well to really help maximize your effort and broaden your reach. There's tons of different, not just the ideas, but kind of how people use them and before and successfully. So these are all ideas that have stemmed from other groups just like yourself that have shared what has been successful for them. And we have put it in here for you guys. So we've really taken everything across the board that has just been successful and works and kind of put it in one action-packed fundraising idea guide. So definitely encourage you to check that out. That is on the volunteer resource page where many of our resources are. And I'm sure one of my liaisons will drop that link right in the chat. They probably already have. I just cannot see that while I am doing all my screen share slides and stuff. Another great way to engage with your community and get support is to use social media. So in this day and age, everyone pretty much is on social media. So it's a super easy way to gather wreath sponsorships. And you can share your direct link if you're a group, always share your group link so that your group gets credit for those wreath sponsorships. If you're a location coordinator and you don't have a group, then you would just share that direct location link and you can share it right on your social media page so that they can sponsor wreath. Another really cool tool is to use that wreathometer that you have on your main page. Just kind of snap a picture of it and then also link your page. It just gives a really quick easy way for a visual for people to kind of see where you're at. So specific asks, help us reach our goal, are really fun way, and it helps people feel like they're helping you guys, accomplish something. And we have found those to be really successful when people are doing that. Um, we do have Samantha Clark, who is our social media manager. She's happy to help you guys with creating Facebook pages. She is out on maternity leave right now, but we do have other resources there to help you guys if you need help. And if you have lost my train of thought there, guys. If you have any, if you're a location, it's a social media is a great way to share your events on there by creating an event, inviting people out. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but here locally, I have things pop up all the time of events in my area that I might be interested in. So if someone has if you have an event for your Wreaths Across America ceremony, it's a great way to kind of get it out to maybe a reach that you wouldn't necessarily see if you have an open event. So just another way that you can use social media to benefit your fundraising goals. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the cutoff dates because that is right around the corner. It seems weird, crazy that we're already there because I feel like it was just January the other day, but here we are in October talking about the countdown to cutoff day, to National Wreaths Across America Day, and those cutoff days for it. So here you can see each region has their own cutoff day. We do have a smaller window this year because it is on the second Saturday. So those cutoff days are very close together. Next year, they might be a little bit more spread out. But region 1, 2, and 5 are going to be December 1st, and region 3 and 4 are going to be November 28th. And that is to try to allow you guys as much time as possible to continue getting those funds in because we do know that around Thanksgiving is some of our biggest fundraising. You know, everyone's like, okay, Thanksgiving's here, and now it's time to like focus on, the next season, and oh, it's time to get my wreath sponsored. So those cutoffs are going to work is you are going to receive a cutoff form. And we'll give you all kinds of information on this. You're going to get lots of emails from us in the next 2 months with all the information that you need. But each region will receive a cutoff form a week ahead of time. So you will have a week to submit to kind of have that cutoff form, familiarize yourself with it, and send it in if you need to. Um, and the cutoff works, it's just that is the date that in order to guarantee wreaths that are sponsored are received on at the location on time, they do have to be received by this date. We will continue to try to capture any sponsorships that come in after. The trucks are loaded constantly, and we are constantly updating numbers and trying to get as many wreaths to our locations as we can because we want to make sure that as many veterans are honored as we can. But this is just the date that where it is guaranteed. So try to make sure you are getting all of your funds in prior to this. The easiest way as we get closer to cutoff is online orders because those are going to go on quicker. You're going to see that number update within 24 hours. Someone could go on cutoff day and sponsor wreaths and they would still, be in that count. If someone gives you mail the check in on cutoff day, we're not going to get it for a little bit. But that is where you can use the cutoff form. And the cutoff form is simply a kind of an IOU. It's where you're saying, hey, I have this, much money in my hand where people have given you checks, whatever. You're going to give us that information and you submit it to us. And we kind of take it as an IOU, give you credit for those wreaths so that we can get those shipped on the truck and then you send the money in. And again, all this information is going to be provided to you in an email. We're going to talk about it in our next month's webinar, just giving you a little kind of taste of what is to come as we go into our crunch time and season is quickly coming upon us. And that is all I have for the groups portion, the fundraising portion. So I just want to open it up. If anybody has any questions on this, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute and ask the question, and we'll check and chat as well.
Julie, this is Laura Yant with
Hi.
Sponsorship Group MO0112P. I don't know if you need the number. I had a request yesterday. We were giving a presentation at a senior living center, and one of the residents asked about making a donation for wreaths through her IRA. So she asked me for the EIN number, which I had the Wreaths Across America EIN number. And I did ask her to let me know if she chose to do that so I could let you all know, I guess, that that would be credited to us. But is that allowed?
Yes, I mean, we'll take money in pretty much any form, okay? Um,
Okay.
but there's some of those different types, they just kind of show differently. There's different needs
Mhm.
for each one. So I would just, unless if Rochelle is on and knows the answer and wants to speak out to it, she's gonna be mad at me for putting her on the spot.
No, that's
Um,
okay. That's okay. I'm here. Yeah, Lori, if you want to go ahead and submit the notification of grant or employee giving form, that way we will at least have the information. You may not have the exact dollar amount that she's planning on sending, or if you do, you can enter that. But on the form, you can let us know that so-and-so is submitting $500 via IRA. And then if you know who the IRA account is through, you can list that on there. Because a lot of times those will come in either through a check or EFT,
Right.
and there's no allocation listed. So the more information you can provide on that notification form, the better we can get it properly allocated.
Okay. Is that form online or because at this point I don't even know her name?
It's on the volunteer resource
Okay.
page. I'll grab the link and drop it in the comments as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Because at
You're
this point I don't
welcome.
even know her name, but I do think she'll let me know if she
Okay,
decides to do that. So thank you. Thank you
you're
both.
welcome.
Thanks, Rochelle. Yeah, that was a great question. And we do have that notification form that Rochelle talked about, and that is for notifications on grants and other types of donations, because a lot of times, some work matching things that come in, they don't always have all the information that we need, group ID or location ID, or sometimes they have one but not the other. So if you let us know by filling out that form, it just makes it easier for us to watch for them and kind of catch them and make sure that your, group ID, location ID are applied as needed. So do we have any other questions or anything from anyone? You guys are a quiet group today. I was expecting more questions.
This is Wayne Barron.
Hi, Wayne.
Hi. If I may comment about the question about making donations to the IRA, what my wife and I do is we go to our firm that handles the IRA and we ask them to make a distribution to a charitable organization. And they do that. And oftentimes all we have to do is call them.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, they can do the research and make sure that it's a 503c1 or 50c3 or whatever that thing is. Okay,
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate that.
certainly.
Raise my hand. Can anybody see
Yep.
me?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm Sharon Howlett, and I think I probably have a little bit easier than everybody because I'm a member of the Elks, and we have 1,300 members. So I usually just get up and speak there. I speak at the ladies' meeting also. One of the things that I say, which I think is helpful for any of you that are up in front of a group, is I try to remind them that although you may not have a friend or relative at the cemetery where you are honoring these veterans, somewhere, someplace else in the United States, somebody is putting a wreath on your loved one's grave. And it really works because somebody at my meeting last night got up and said her sister was visiting. Last year was the first year they went to our Wreaths Across America Cemetery. And then they went out to Riverside where their loved one was buried, and there was a wreath there, and it kind of like brought tears to their eyes. So it's a real important thing to say. It's minor, but I find it's very, very helpful, although I like to talk, so I don't have an issue. But our event is not led by us at the cemetery. It's led by the American Heritage Girls. However, that doesn't stop us from doing the best we can. And each year we've tried to exceed what we've done the year before. And if any of you have excess wreaths, so you think, oh my God, we don't need this. Yes, you do, because we donated our excess wreaths to other cemeteries in the area. so that they could be full as well. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we also have on that volunteer resource page, we have presentations that are, already built out for you guys. So if you are invited to speak to someone about Wreaths Across America, we have slides put together in a presentation that talks about the background. And then of course you can customize it to your own specific locations. And it is always great to get more wreaths than you think you may need, because your cemetery might be covered, but there are always cemeteries nearby that are not. One of the really exciting things, as we have seen so much growth, and we're over 5,300 cemeteries nationwide now, which is just amazing from when we first started and we had a few hundred and that was it. And a lot of these cemeteries are getting fully covered, but we do still have a lot of our larger national cemeteries that only have a small percentage. And I know we have some of those location coordinators on here who would say, yes, please always help out your national cemeteries if you get your smallest cemeteries covered as well, because there's people from all over. Another thing I did want to point out is that if you are a sponsorship group and you are presenting somewhere, and someone does not necessarily, they want to sponsor a wreath for their loved one, but it's not at your cemetery, they can still sponsor a wreath for another cemetery as long as it is participating and get your group would still get credit for it. So even if it's not one of your locations that you have selected to sponsor wreaths for, when they go onto that page, your sponsorship page online, they can click from that drop down. When it gets to the location, it'll say find a different location, and it takes them right to the map. They can plug in that location ID or cemetery name or whatever and sponsor that wreath, so that they could do like a grave specific if they allow it there for their loved one, but your group would still get support for credit for it as well.
You can. Great.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions or anything before we end this portion of the webinar?
Yeah, Julie, this is Melody Christensen in Colorado.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Can you clarify again on the message sending? So I went in and looked at mine and I saw the pause. And if I change that to active on a scheduled message, are you saying that message will go to all of our previous sponsors?
Yes. So that those messages, I think it'll tell you it goes to like sponsors and volunteers.
Right.
There's different audiences, and I don't have them all memorized which campaign messages we did, but it'll tell you whether it's current year or all. If it says current year, it's only going to your sponsorship groups and volunteers for this year. If it says all, that's going to all from past years and current.
Okay, so as long as I change it from pause to active, it'll happen automatically on that date.
Yep, it will. We are
Awesome.
very eager to see how our first big send goes out. I think we already had several groups and locations. We've got over like 60,000 messages that are already scheduled to go out on the 17th to different, not individual messages, but that will be hitting different people. Those are the recipients. So it's a really wide reach that we have, especially where we're pulling all like the past sponsors and all volunteers. And so it's a really cool opportunity to take advantage of, to get people who maybe they sponsored a wreath 3 years ago and then they kind of forgot about it. They just haven't done it since. And if you can reach them with some of the messages, that will remind them about Wreaths Across America and encourage them to engage again, sponsor another wreath. Or if they're like me and I am just very forgetful, and until someone emails me like 2 or 3 times, and I'm finally like, oh, I should probably just go on and sponsor my wreath. So there's people like that too, because I just tend to ignore my emails until I absolutely have to do them. In my personal emails, my work emails, you guys can reach me at any time. I'm very prompt on those.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. All right. So we're going to switch.
Julie,
Uh-huh.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so up until this year, we were under that program where you purchase 2 wreaths and get a 3rd one for free. So we know that program has gone away, and now we're on getting a $5 in banking or something for each wreath. And our program, we've been very lucky, and we have done all my fundraising really right after or on Wreaths Across America Day, because of these matching programs that we've had for the past several years. So the message that you all would send out can I stop you from sending messages now to say, get a wreath now, as opposed to waiting toward December, because, and then getting a wreath in case there's a matching? Does that make sense?
So yeah, so it does. But I mean, I would encourage you to go ahead because again, like we kind of talked about before, there's always locations that need, help, support. So, kind of getting that support now is really important. But those messages are not automatically going to send. You have to opt to send them. So you get to choose if
Okay.
you want them to be sent or not. So all you have to do is just don't make them active. They're on there. They're going to say paused. And as long as they say paused, they're not going to send. And you can send messages on your own at a different time if that works better for you. All right, so
Thank
we're gonna
you.
switch. You're welcome. We're gonna switch over to our location portion of this now because we have lots to go through on that. So if you are a group leader and you are not a location coordinator, this does not apply to you and you are gonna be bored and not care about any of this. So I will give you guys a minute to leave and we'll get started with the location planning portion of this in just a moment. I just really wanted an excuse for a water break there. So, all right. So we're going to talk about planning your wreath-laying ceremony. When it comes to planning your ceremony, regardless of the size of your cemetery, early planning is the key to a successful event. The first thing you should do is create a task list that outlines all your tasks and check-in dates so you can kind of track your progress. Next, you'll want to build your volunteer team. None of us can do this alone. Even if you have a small location, it's always helpful if you have help doing this. So whether you have 5 graves or 500, anytime you're planning an event, it's going to be easier with the more hands that you have. So recruit a person or a team of people based on your specific needs to ensure that everything gets handled. Stay engaged with your sponsorship groups throughout the year to keep them engaged. Make sure that they know about your plans. If you need help with, wreath staging, any of that stuff, if you're communicating with your sponsorship groups, a lot of time they want to help. You just have to ask. Also, make sure you're taking advantage of your community because they also want to support you. And reach out to your local businesses for sponsorships, in-kind donations, supplies, equipment, all the different things that you may need. And don't forget to customize your Wreaths Across America page so that you can make sure that you are sharing your wreath laying plans and cleanup plans with the community so that they can help support the mission too. So some of the key tasks that you want to make sure you are included are grave specific requests. And of course, the grave specific request is left up. It's up to the individual location if they want to choose to accept those or not. If you do choose to accept them, you'll want to make sure you organize them, assign volunteers, and communicate with families to ensure that proper wreath placement, whether it's letting them know where to pick up the wreath or that you placed it for them. And you can use the messaging in grave specific. We have in the messaging, we have templates specifically for grave specific requests where you can send it to people who are going to be placing themselves. So that way you can communicate with them, parking information, pickup information, like, hey, we're going to meet you at this part of the cemetery after the ceremony or before the ceremony or whatever specific time, because this can be a very, emotional thing for them. And we want to make sure that they have all the information they need of where to be. You're also going to want to make sure that one of your other tasks are ceremony planning and supplies. So you'll need a plan, ceremony details, speakers, sound, music, ceremonial wreath placement, and don't panic. This can be as big or, as simple as you want this to be. So if you're like, hold up, we're, a smaller location, there's only 5 of us that go out here and do this, that's okay. As long as you are, doing this with honor and respect, that's what matters. But for some of those that might be a little bit bigger, if you want to have a speaker and sound and music and all those are just things that you should consider planning ahead of time. Wreath delivery and distribution is another important thing to keep on your task list to make sure that things are running smoothly. You'll need to coordinate the delivery with the driver, unload, count the wreaths to ensure that there are no issues, and then collaborate with cemetery staff for section coverage. So if you're not fully covered, we encourage you to kind of rotate those sections over the years so that everyone is covered at some point. And that's something you'll want to communicate with the cemetery to kind of plan on that. Event logistics and cleanup is another task. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Forgot to turn my work phone on. Event logistics and cleanup is another task that you're going to want to make sure you're kind of keeping track of to handle anything that is needed with parking, traffic control, if you need local law enforcement, depending on where your cemetery is. Sometimes you need local law enforcement there to help people get in and out of the cemetery so that we're not, risking crashes or anything like that, or people parking all randomly. So those are just different things to kind of think about, and we'll kind of talk about them a little bit more as we go through this, the slides here. So some things to consider with your ceremony is, can everyone in attendance see and hear clearly? So we kind of talked about this a minute ago with like the sound equipment. If there's like 5 of you, this probably doesn't apply to you, disregard. But if you've got even a smaller location, if you are going to be speaking and you've got a group of, 100 people, so people in the back might not be able to hear you. So it might be helpful to get a small sound system that you can kind of, even if it's just like a little, karaoke kind of plug and play thing to take with you so that people can hear you, so that they can hear the work that you put into this and hear your ceremony and the words that you're saying. Also keep in mind, like, do you have seating available? If you're going to have some elderly people, veterans, sometimes they've got some disabilities. We want to make sure that there is seating available for those who may need it. And, not everyone may need that, but these are just things to consider that have worked for others. If you're choosing a speaker for your ceremony, make sure that you choose a non-controversial speaker, because you don't want to take away from the day's events. The ceremony script is available for download on the volunteer resource page, but remember, that's just a guideline. So we want you to customize that, make it your own, talk about your cemetery, talk about some of the different things about your specific area, and really tie it in, make the community feel like they're a part of this. Some of the things to consider for your ceremony are contacting the USO or Red Cross and ask if they would provide a trailer for water and first aid. Check with local companies like Home Depot or Lowe's if they can donate items like chairs, gloves, and safety vests. Check with local print companies who might be willing to donate the cost of printing programs, maps of the cemetery, and proper wreath placement instructions. I mentioned this earlier, but UPS, I know that they have done some discounted printing for me. I know they do it for some other locations too. They're a really good resource if you go into their local offices, because they are allowed to give a discount for nonprofit organizations anyways. And then they can also do other donations at their individual stores discretion. So make friends with them, be polite, and you can get more people to support you there. Home Depot and Lowe's, we also know that they have given, support, USO, Red Cross, everything that we're mentioning here in this webinar are things that have worked for other people. So we're not just saying it willy-nilly, like, oh, go randomly check these places. These are places that we do know have supported other locations. And also, if you have other local smaller shops, connect with them too, because they might not have as much capability to help you, but I'm sure, will want to help you. Another good resource is local flower shops and funeral homes for your stands for the ceremonial wreaths. So ceremonial wreath stands, we do not provide those. Those are something you do need to provide yourself. And those are good options. We actually got ours from a cemetery where they were going to throw them away, or not a cemetery, the funeral home. And that's where I got mine locally. Floral shops, all those places, if they've got some that might be a little bent or maybe they're rusted, get a can of spray paint, they'll look brand new, and then you can use them for your ceremony. So do you want to talk a little bit about grave specific requests? So we kind of mentioned this earlier, but the locations can choose whether or not they are accepting those grave specific requests. So if this doesn't apply to you, just hang out with us while we talk to those that it does. So grave specific requests, if you are accepting those, this is a really big responsibility because it can be very personal for those families. If you have done this before, you may have experienced where someone thought they ordered a grave specific and they didn't, or it got moved, and you've had to deal with some of those, the repercussions of someone getting upset about it. And it's important to remember that um, it's not necessarily that they're, mad at you. You're kind of just the one that's taken the brunt of that, because it means so much to them. It's a very emotional thing. So we want to make sure that we are doing everything on our part if you are choosing to accept grade specifics. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that list on cutoff, not before wreath day. You're going to want to make sure you print that list off and that you have it on hand so that you can kind of go through it if someone is placing a grade specific wreath and you're not missing anyone. You can also, it's helpful if you can flag those. If you know people are going to be coming to place those, you can request donations of Surveyor or American flags from local hardware stores and mark those graves to notify others that the families will be placing them. New on our pages this year is we do have that the grave specific placement breakdown, where on your under your ceremony information you can actually list the time that you're going to do grave specific placement. So if you're going to do grave specific placement before your ceremony to avoid people placing them, you can put that time on there now and it'll show right on your main page. And again, you can use the messaging to communicate that. If you're not going to be doing the grave specific placement before the ceremony, you're going to be doing it as a part of the ceremony or even after, I would encourage you to use the flags or the something to indicate to people that there is a family member, a loved one that is coming to place that wreath, and ask them to go place the wreath somewhere else. And then the family member can have the opportunity to place that wreath on their loved one's grave. You're going to want to organize your list. So after your regional cutoff date, and I would give it a day or two, because sometimes, orders come in, they're processing slow. So don't go on there right at the cutoff time and download that list. Give it a day or two after, and then download your list of grade specifics and start organizing. Are going to be placing them themselves or the ones that are going to want them placed for you. Also would encourage you, if you're doing grade specific requests and you've got 20 grade specific requests, always keep more wreaths set aside than you think you're going to need, because then if you do have someone who thought that they would place a grade specific order but they didn't, or it's missing or whatever, you can kind of have that to as a backup to help cover, to give that to them so that they're taken care of and covered for that year. Also important for, if you've got new burials coming in, if you can keep having a few extra wreaths as a buffer, even if you are fully covered, is always going to be good, because someone might get moved, new burials coming in, and you can kind of cover those. So just something to keep in mind there. And talk to your groups. If you have a large location, you have a lot of grave specific sponsorships, talk to your groups, ask them how they can help. Use those young kids, the CAP, the American Heritage Girls, they got younger legs and they can walk all over the cemetery for you. So put them to work and let them help you guys with those grave specific requests, going out, making sure that they're placed, and taking photos if possible. And then you can upload those photos right into the system and send those emails with some of those new updated messaging features pretty easily. And talk a little bit about the delivery and the logistics. So 5,300 cemeteries, there's a lot that goes behind the delivery of these wreaths to you guys. A large part of our deliveries are donated. The trucking industry really supports us with, that trucking that they provide to us. We do have small pack, which is like FedEx or UPS stuff. that, you know, they might give us a discount, but there is cost associated with that. And we're excited that we can still offer those free deliveries to you guys. But we are dependent on that donated trucking to do that. And so that means we kind of work around with their schedule and what works for best for them. So what we want to make sure in order to have a smooth wreath delivery is to be ready to accept the delivery anywhere in a 2-week window up to your ceremony. Now this year, we really only have 2 weeks from cutoff day to wreath day, so it's a very small window. Next year there's kind of a week in between, but that 2-week window is where you need to be prepared. So if you don't have a place, like if the cemetery is like you can't store them here, you need to have a plan to have a place to store those wreaths somewhere else. If you're a smaller location, if you want, I've got a 75 graves at my cemetery. I keep the wreaths right outside of my garage and on my house. Nobody ever messes with them. I live in North Carolina. I just open the boxes so they can breathe, and they stay out there, rain, shine, no snow, because we don't get snow here that time of year. So just to kind of give you guys an idea of storage, you know, you don't have to, if you're a smaller location, you don't necessarily have to go find offsite storage at like a warehouse or something like that. If you do have a couple thousand, you might want to consider, you know, reaching out to local warehouses, local stores. I know any store that has like a box truck is a great option because then they can bring them in. Fire departments, we also know that they will store wreaths for you. And, you know, if they have a big building, obviously they have to have a place to store them for you. But even if they store them outside and there's always someone there, so they can kind of keep an eye on them for you depending on where you live. And you want to make sure that you have a list of volunteers that you can call. So kind of plan on having like a calling tree ready for people to come and help you unload. Again, this is all based off of your own specific location's needs. I personally get 15 boxes. I just unload them myself with the truck driver. If you have more boxes, or you know, if it's something if you're not able to lug those boxes around, you're going to want to make sure you have a calling tree ready to have people there to help you. We do ask that the drivers give you, the trucking companies call you when they kind of to schedule ahead of time. We ask them at a minimum to give you 24 hours notice. But again, we are dependent on these drivers that are donating their time, their equipment. So sometimes they don't call us. They just, you know, they might call and say, hey, I'm an hour out. So it's always better if you can kind of have a plan A, B, and C, so that you are prepared. Have a plan to, if they're going to call the day before, maybe they can take them right to the cemetery. Or if you, you know, are going to be out of town, make sure you have other people that can cover it. And also, it's really important to make sure that you answer your phone calls during that time frame, because they are going to call you. And if you're like me, I use myself for all these examples because I am the problem. Usually, you know, I don't answer calls if I don't know them. I just like, oh, I'm going to ignore that phone call. But in that 2-week window, I'm going to ask you to risk the spam calls, okay, and answer the calls, because your truck driver might be trying to reach you to set up a delivery time or to say, hey, I'm like 2 hours away. So you're going to want to make sure that you are answering that phone in that 2-week window. And if you have specific, you know, concerns around your delivery, reach out to your liaisons, because with 5,300 cemeteries nationwide that we're working with, there is usually not a scenario which we have not helped navigate regarding delivery. So reach out to your liaisons. They're a great resource to help you with that. And then there is the box detail on here. We will send these slides around. They'll be available for you to download later, so you can kind of have the different boxes. And if you've been on our webinars before, or any of our emails, we have all this information all the time that we're giving out to you guys. And here's another breakdown of those wreath boxes with their size, their weight, the different pallets, all that fun stuff. I'm not going to go through this all again. It'll be available for you to download later on. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about traffic control and parking. And again, if this doesn't apply to your location, then just ignore us while we talk a little bit to people it does apply to. So if you think about your parking situation. Make sure that you're taking into account if you have room for parking, do you need to have offsite parking? Sometimes if it's a smaller cemetery, it's just like a little dirt road that goes through, and maybe you need to have a plan to park people off site. You know, if you do, a great resource to use is a local school. Have them park a local school. See if you can work with the school to use those buses or the county to use those buses to bring people in the day of and then take people back. So that way you don't have too many cars in the parking area if it's limited. Um, if you have smaller roads, harder to get into, work with your local police department to kind of help traffic management there. So again, allowing people in and out that cemetery a little bit easier on wreath day. Or if you have people, if they're parking here and they're going across the road, it's a good idea to have traffic control there to help people cross the road so you don't have any incidences. So lots of different things you can kind of do there depending on your individual needs. The biggest thing, the most important, is to make sure that you are communicating your specific parking plans so that people know where to go, what time to be there, and what to expect. That's going to make your day go so much smoother than if people are showing up with no idea and they're just winging, they go here, and then you say, actually, you need to park over here. They're going to get frustrated and it's just going to start the day off bad for them. And so make sure you are communicate it with your local media, put it on your Raise Across America page. You can use that page alert that we talked about earlier. In this instance, it's a great opportunity to be like, hey, there's no parking on site. Make sure you park here, so that when people come to your page for information, they see that immediately and they know not to show up at the cemetery because they need to park off site. And again, if you have a specific, issue and you're not quite sure how to handle it, reach out to your liaisons, because that is something that we, are ready and have that information to provide you with. Because at this point, we've seen almost every unique type of situation. I mean, there's such a variety of different cemeteries and what they need to be able for parking and all that stuff. All right, so wreath staging, we'll talk a little bit about this. And again, this is where you're going to put that volunteer team to work. If you can, different things that you can do is stage your wreaths, around sections if you are a larger location. Otherwise, you can kind of have them at one central point. But I do recommend that you always have people there to distribute them. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's going to end up being a free-for-all, because for everyone's best intentions, they will come and they'll grab 2 or 3 or 4 wreaths or a box, and they'll start walking to place them because they want to make sure that they are getting those wreaths placed on the veterans graves. But if you have 200 wreaths and you have 200 people show up for your ceremony, you want to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to place a wreath. So you're going to want to make sure you have people there to distribute them, passing them out 1 wreath at a time or 2 wreaths at a time, whatever is, what works best for your individual location. If you have more people than you have wreaths, what I would recommend is that you invite people who have a loved one at the cemetery to come forward first. And this does not necessarily mean that they placed a grave specific wreath. This means that they just came out that day because maybe they heard about it, but they didn't know about sponsoring a wreath. And so they showed up. And so you invite them to come forward first so that they can get those wreaths and go place them on their loved ones' graves and then pass them out to the others. And this is also an opportunity to help increase your wreath sponsorships for the next year, because people are going to say, well, I didn't get to place a wreath. That's how you take that opportunity and you tell them about how they can help next year to make sure that you have enough wreaths for all the graves. And if you have more people and all your graves are covered, then that's a great problem to have. Encourage them to support the local locations that might need help with wreath sponsorships there. I've actually had that as well too, where we had, again, small cemetery, 75 graves, and we had like 100 something people came out, which was great. It was wonderful because we had so much from the community there to support us, but not everyone placed a wreath. So we just had like different families where they would just place a wreath together because there wasn't enough wreaths for everyone to place, but all the veterans' graves were covered. Okay. So another thing that you want to kind of keep in mind when you're planning is wreath cleanup. And I know it seems like you're like, can I just place the wreaths and we'll deal with this later? But you're going to want to plan ahead, because then you can tell people on your wreath day on wreath day, you can tell them there, hey, don't forget to come back out on whatever date to help us with the cleanup. Because you're going to have a lot more people come out to help place the wreaths, and they are going to clean up. So you want to make sure you are sharing that so people have an opportunity to come out and do that as well too. Make sure you communicate with the cemetery, find out what specific day they want those wreaths picked up. It might be, I know our national cemeteries, typically it is the third Saturday of January. It could change, but it's been the third Saturday for many years now, so that's what we kind of plan on. The biggest thing is to make sure that those wreaths are picked up before they turn brown. We certainly do not want any brown wreaths on any of the veterans' graves. So depending where you are, if you're in Texas, you might have to pick them up the first weekend in January. If you live in North Dakota, you might not pick them up till April when the snow is thawed up enough for you to find them again. So it just depends on your individual location, but you always want to make sure you are communicating with your cemetery to make sure that you are abiding by their rules, and picking them up when they are telling you to have them picked up, because we want to make sure we are being good partners with them. You can also, things to consider with your wreaths is recycling. We have people who will do work with the American Legions, and they'll do like a flag, burning ceremony, and they'll do the wreaths at the same time. And then they'll take those metal rings out of the fire and, use them for scrap metal, put that money back into wreaths. We have some groups that will actually disassemble the wreaths, and recycle the metal rings. You can use the greens, chip the greens for mulch, and then they donate the bows to local retirement homes or schools for crafts. These are just some of the things. And again, each area could be a little different, depending on your area, your weather, and all that stuff. We also have local fisheries and farmers that will use the wreaths for fish habitats, or animal feed. So goats, they like wreaths. We have a couple locations that's how they get rid of all their wreaths. So, think outside the box when it comes to your wreath cleanup and how you can kind of recycle some of the wreaths, use them for other, purposes. And it helps save on some of your cleanup costs. If you just have to take it to the local, transfer station or whatever, these can kind of save you there. So think outside of the box on those. My slides are not wanting to cooperate with me today when I'm clicking them. All right, so building a strong team is key to having a successful wreath day without losing your mind. So again, share with people. Tell them if people want to help you, all you have to do is ask. Because a lot of times they're just waiting for you to tell them like, hey, I need you to help me do this. The worst thing they can do is say no if you ask them. So you want to make sure, try to, assign some subcommittees and set like lead volunteers who can report back to you, say like, hey, someone's, do you want to help? Do you want to do the grade specific? Great. This is your baby now. You take this. You can assign helpers in the managed pages. So if you have someone who is going to be taking the lead on one of these teams, you can assign them a role as helper so that they can log into the managed pages in their own login. They can download those grade specific reports or whatever else you may be using them for, and help you there too. We also have a wreath day logistics template from our the planning section on the volunteer resource page that defines like the different tasks and roles, and it's fully customizable. So I encourage you to check that out, download that, and see what you can use that might be helpful for you. If something's not helpful, just delete it. But there might be some things on there that you do find helpful for your specific location. And we kind of come back to this communication. We've talked about this several times, but communication is really key to making your event successful. Communication to your sponsors, to your community. Use those updated messaging features we talked about. We're really excited about them. I think they're going to prove to be really successful in helping make everybody's life a little bit easier. And especially with those thank yous and those reorder requests, I think it's going to be really important to use this year. You can send messages through your dashboard to sponsorship groups to let them know, different events, what to expect for Wreath Day, when to be there, what you need for help. If you need some groups to help you with gray specific placements, send a message out to your sponsorship groups, to ask them. Your sponsors, your volunteers, send them a message, hey, if you haven't sponsored a wreath yet, now's the time. Make sure you're taking advantage of those resources that we have already built out for you, because they're really easy to use. Make sure you have a sponsor call to action. So share your current wreath count and how many you still need. So in some of these emails, and I think it's one of our later campaigns that we have, that kind of specifically calls like kind of where you're at on your wreath goal, because we have found that to be really successful in the past, but you can send that out at any time as well. And just like telling people like, hey, we're 200 wreaths away from covering our cemetery, help us out. Because a lot of times, even if they've already sponsored a wreath, they might be willing to give again if they have a very clear goal, to and call to action of what is needed. Volunteer assignments, make sure you're including, instructions, timeline map, and don't forget to be grateful, because we are always grateful for everything that people are willing to do to help us to make our lives easier. So make sure we are communicating that, maybe after Wreath Day, you're sending out a message saying like, hey, thank you so much for your help to your sponsorship groups, just so that they, are know that they are appreciated. And then just make sure you're communicating those other key details we talked about before: grade specific placement, wreath retirement. People can't show up and help if they don't know about them. So make sure you are sharing that information, updating your page, getting this information out there to your community. So I want to talk a little bit about veteran wreath count, because especially for locations, this is really important, because as we come into come closer to Wreath Day, you're going to be getting lots of emails from your regional liaisons about your wreath count. So your veterans grave count, that's what we ship based off of that. That is what is considered the maximum number of wreaths that we are going to ship you, whatever is sponsored up to that amount. So make sure you are updating that number in the system. If you haven't updated in a while, it's always good to keep it updated. Even if you're like, we don't ever get the mini wreaths, so it doesn't matter. It's good to make sure you are still keeping that number updated, because we have a lot of corporate sponsors that come on and they say, hey, I want to support a local cemetery in my area. And if we look and we're like, oh, they're already covered, or they're only like 10 away from being fully covered, we're going to direct them to a different cemetery that might need more help. So make sure you're keeping that veterans grade count updated with us, even if you don't necessarily get the sponsorships, because you never know what could come your way.
Julie,
Mhm.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I have, this wreathometer thing. Is there a large poster version that we can put up at the cemetery? So, as people drive by, they could, see how we're progressing, and maybe have a QR code that they could click, take a picture of, to link them to our page.
Mhm. That's a great idea. That is not something we have, but I don't know if you're
Mhm,
on our Facebook pages, but we do
mhm,
have some other location coordinators who have kind of shared what they've done
mhm.
at like events. Like they kind of have like almost like where they have the different places where they fill it up as they go along. You can
Right.
color it in. I would reach out to your local printing companies to see if
Okay.
that's something that they could make. The one that I have seen was, it was laminated and it was like velcroed, and they were able to like, they took the individual pieces and like filled it up as it got fuller. And I like
Mhm.
that idea of having that out, the cemetery, and to, the QR code on there so people can, make those sponsorships. Make sure you get permission from your cemetery though before you do anything like that.
I
I
have
know
a very close
specifically.
relationship.
Okay, good. I know
I'm
national
sorry.
cemeteries, we're a no-go there. State veteran cemeteries, they have very specific rules on that.
Correct.
So just make sure anytime we're posting stuff there, but that's great. If you have a cemetery that's willing to support it, that's a great idea.
Mhm. Great.
And this
Thank you.
wreathometer, you're welcome. Thank you for bringing that up. So the wreathometer here, this is going to turn green as it fills in. And this is based off of your sponsorship goal, not your veterans wreath count. So we ship the wreaths based off your veterans grave count, and the wreathometer here, this is just to show to the community what your goal is. So you can make it more obtainable if you are, you want people to feel like it's an accomplishable goal. So if you have 5,000 veterans graves and you typically get like 200, wreath sponsored, you can keep that. You're going to want to keep that veterans grave count as 5,000 in case we get, corporate sponsors, because you can always change this goal, but maybe make the goal 300. If you got 200 last year, maybe make your goal like 300 to try to increase it a little bit more this year. But make it so it's attainable, because people are more likely to give when they feel like they can actually make a difference. If they go on there and they're like, oh gosh, they're still like 4,000 away, like, they might not be as inclined to it. But when they're like, oh, like they're only 10 wreaths away, let me go sponsor some wreaths. Like, they just are more inclined to do that when they feel like they are helping you reach that final goal. And you can change that goal at any time. Throughout the year to make it either more or less. I do want to say that with that veterans grave count, I do recommend having a little bit of a buffer. So if you have 101 veterans buried there, I would you know put a couple more to account for new burials. Once we get to November 1st, the system, certain parts of the system is locked down to changes because it affects our shipping, like addresses, contact information, stuff like that. We do have to lock it down, just so that we can start communicating that information to drivers. If something comes up and you do need to change it, you can always reach out to your liaisons and we can do that for you. So that veterans grave count is one of those, but you don't want to have to be contacting us every week to say, hey, can you increase that by one more wreath? So talk to your cemetery and see like, hey, how many burials do you think will take place from now until wreath day? Depending on the cemetery, most cemeteries, my cemetery, they might have one burial a year. They don't grow very fast. It's a small cemetery. There's not new burials really happening. Some of the larger cemeteries that are more active, they might have 2 or 3 burials a month. But that is information that your cemetery is going to have. So ask them and see if they can provide you with kind of an estimate and kind of create a buffer there. So that way, if you have a few extra wreaths and you have some people new burials that happen after wreath day, it's a really nice gesture to have them placed on the graves. And a lot of times your cemeteries will hold onto those wreaths and place them for you. So you don't have to keep going back out to the cemetery to place them, but the cemeteries, they really like to be a part of this too. And they want to make sure that, those new burials get wreaths as well. Especially if your cemetery is completely covered and then you have like 2 or 3 new burials, and imagine you're the family member of that person who comes in after the wreaths are placed and it's your first holiday without your loved one and there's no wreath on their grave but everyone else has one. So always kind of good to just kind of keep a few extra as a buffer for reasons like that. So 2 weeks leading up to wreath day, there's lots of things that you kind of need to be aware of, making sure that you're pulling, that final grade specific list. Watch for emails from us, from your regional liaison team. It's going to have delivery information. At this point, if you don't have your flags by December 1st, if you don't have your ceremonial flags, please let us know, because if you contact us the day before wreath day, there is not really much I can do to help you get those flags at that point. So we'll send some emails out to you guys. You're going to get lots of emails from us over the next 2 months. One of those will be information on your flags, what to kind of expect for those, instructions on how to put them on your wreaths and when to expect them. We are going to start shipping those out the first week in November. So you'll kind of start seeing them roll in through November. I recommend taking them out so that because they'll be rolled up so they can kind of air out, and some people iron them. If you don't remember to unroll them, iron them to get them the night before to get them nice and smooth. But if you take them out ahead of time, they'll be rolled out for you. And then make sure you are reaching out to the cemetery staff and sharing your plans for Wreath Day, make sure everyone's on board. This is all information that we do have in those planning guides for you guys on that volunteer resource page. So you can kind of look down through the checklist and kind of see, okay, what do I need to do? If you're like me, I have to have a list for everything, otherwise I'm going to forget something. So we have that already built out for you. And some of the things you might not need, but it's a great way to just kind of check to make sure you're not forgetting anything. And I'm running a little short on time, so we're just going to go through those a little quicker. All right, so once Wreath Day arrives, make sure you kind of plan to be there an hour before the event, so you have plenty of time to set up and organize your volunteers. Your wreath laying ceremony should start on time. That's your Wreaths Across America location page that's listed on there. Please make sure you are updating that page. If you plan to start your ceremony at 11 o'clock and your page says 12 o'clock, people are going to show up at 12 o'clock and they're going to call us very upset because it was already over. You might already even be gone. So please make sure that you are updating that page, because even if you think that nobody's going to go look at it and like, oh, it's just the community that comes out, nobody looks at the page, there's always a possibility that someone will. And every year we have at least a handful of locations where someone shows up at a cemetery, no one's there, the wreaths have already been placed, because someone forgot to update the ceremony time. So please make sure that you are updating that on your page, communicating that with your, sharing that information with your community, and start it on the time that you say on those page. If weather related things happen, obviously it happens, nothing we can do about that. But communicate with your liaison, update your page, do a page alert real quick or something so that people do know, like, hey, we're going to be postponing, or we're going to start an hour later to let some ice thaw, or whatever the thing may be. Just make sure that we are communicating it with people so that people have a good experience. And then make sure you are communicating again that the cleanup date, so people know when to come back out, and with your, share your words are hard today, guys. Share your contact, information with volunteers who maybe want to come back so they can reach out to you to come back later, if you don't have that information. And always make sure you clean up the ceremony. We want to leave it clean, when we're gone. So if there's cardboard boxes laying around, anything, any, loose bows, you always want to make sure you kind of do like a walkthrough afterwards. Or if you have a group of young kids, again, that's a great time to put them to work, let them walk the cemetery, make sure that there's no trash. We want to make sure we are leaving the cemetery the same way that we found it, except with the addition of the wreaths on the graves. And let's see, and now I'm going to let Amber talk a little bit about working with your local media, why I drink some water.
Good job, Julie. You're doing a great job. A lot of good information. Hi, everyone. I'm Amber, Communications Director here. We have lots of resources in place to help you all be successful this year. If you have any questions, first and foremost, the best email to use is pr@wreathsacross america.org. Both myself and the locations and groups public relations coordinator, Rachel, will receive that email, and one of us will get back to you. We are here to help you if you need assistance with maybe identifying media in your market. Also, we are happy to look at any materials that you've drafted that you'd like to put out to your local media. I will say that there's a lot of templates. We've put a lot of time and energy into creating templates for you. That's on, I know, you guessed it, the volunteer resource page, where there's all kinds of great tools on there. But if you look down, there's all kinds of different red headers. And there's one that talks about, promoting your event and public relations and social media. There you can download a template and just customize it for your location and your group, and let people know, where and when they need to be. It's important, obviously, in the smaller markets that you take the time to try and develop relationships with your local media. Encourage them to come out and participate. Let them be part of the day. As much time as possible, I would encourage you to start reaching out to your local media contacts at least a month ahead of time. Let them know what you have leading up to the event. Let them know how they can participate on day of the event. This is a real community effort, so your media, local media should want to participate. That being said, you can't guarantee it. There's no way to guarantee coverage of anything. Obviously, there's lots of competing priorities with media, especially in the larger markets. So we certainly encourage you to just highlight different ways that they can get involved. If you have like some of the things that we highlight around Wreath Day, if you have local veterans or Gold Star military families that are going to be participating in your event, if you want to let them know, your local media know ahead of time so they can be spotlighted in some way. But I really feel like it's important to just, I know we're thinking about Wreath Day right in this moment, but it's really important to remember that Wreaths Across America Day is an important event, but the mission is year round and there's things happening all year round that you can work with your local media to draw attention to. So we do try to encourage you to look on the volunteer resource page and see what kind of templates we have out there. Because like, for instance, like Giving in July is a big one. Memorial Day, we just had a big push around national flag waving around 9/11. Those are all ways to kind of engage with your media ahead of time. So come November and December, when you reach out to them, they at least know who you are. They recognize you as a volunteer for the program, and they'll be more apt to get back to you. But we also have other resources. We have our media resources page on the site. There you can find public service announcements that are downloadable that you can share with local TV and radio stations. We have photos and videos that are great to provide as background. I would encourage you to, if you have a local member of the media who's interested, you can direct them right to that page where they can go through it themselves and take a look at the things that we have available. As much as possible, try and keep it local. So if you have photos from years past, I would encourage you to share those so that they have a visual of the local community participating. A reminder, Samantha Clark, who many of you know and love from our social media team, did just have a little girl, so she is out for a little bit. But if you go to social@wreathsacrossamerica.org, we do have members of the team, specifically Jordan Barrett, who is helping out and assisting while Samantha is away. So don't hesitate to reach out. But there's also a lot of those resources available. We've tried to provide it with each social media messaging guide that goes out. There's a calendar of important dates and holidays that might be, make sense to share on your own pages and bring attention. So all I can say is, we're here to help. Don't hesitate to reach out, but definitely look at the resources available to you. Don't wait to the last minute. If you reach out to your media the day before the event, odds are they're probably not going to be able to come unless it's a really small town and there's nothing else going on. So remember, these folks are, in a lot of cases, the newsrooms are getting smaller and smaller. So what used to be a 3-person crew who would come to an event might be 1 person and a camera now. So just keep that in mind that they're, probably have a lot of events to cover every day, especially on a weekend. So that being said, reach out with any questions and happy pitching to the media. Hopefully Julie toweled off and can come back and jump back in.
That's a lot of talking
I
today,
know, a lot of
guys.
talking. You're doing great, Julie. You're doing great.
Well, that wraps up what we have for that. And so I just want to open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions about anything we've talked about or anything else that we didn't talk about that you just want to know about, we're happy to answer those.
Hi, good morning. This is Mona, and I have a silly
Hi, Mona.
question.
Mhm.
I missed the first, I guess 30, 40 minutes, but are the wreath prices the same? $17?
Yep, the research $17.
And then the other part is I know there wasn't the buy two, get one free any longer. There's something different. What is that called?
So we don't have the 3 for 2 group anymore, where for every 2 responsored you get a third. Now we have is the $5 Ford. So for every $17 wreath that is sponsored, $5 is going to go towards the sponsorship of another wreath. It's very similar to the 3 for 2, just calculated slightly different now.
Okay, so every $5 for a wreath is taken off, and The money's
Goes
donated
towards,
okay.
so for every wreath that is sponsored through your group, if they're registered as a $5 Ford group, will automatically be applied towards the sponsorship of another wreath. So it goes in at like 1.3 wreaths or whatever is how it's gonna show on your side, like in the dashboard,
Okay, so
like
not
when the
really
order
any
goes in.
difference. Okay, and the cutoff day is the 28th, November 28th, is that correct?
Where are you at? What region?
California?
Yes, it
Region
is the
4?
28th. Mhm.
Okay. All right, I think that's all the questions. Is Amber Rocha our still coordinator?
She is.
Okay.
She is still here. She has no choice. She's stuck with us. And she is still the regional liaison for there, along with Patricia, who is new and just joining us this year for Region 4.
Okay, I was gonna say, I thought there was somebody else too. I just want to make sure Amber's still here.
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Mona.
Julie, can you go back to the previous slide that showed the photos of the?
Oh gosh, I go over that quickly for a reason.
Well, come on, just put them up so we can see them.
Now you can put a face to the name, guys. Here you go. Here is our
Good,
team
thank
of
you.
people.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yes, I'm at this is Art Wall, and we've got a small location, and we're looking like only 4 boxes being delivered, and I have it set up right now for delivery to my home address, and there is access. We do have another cemetery that gets about 8 boxes locally, and they said that they still come in on a tractor trailer to them. A tractor trailer can access here and maneuver around on the streets. It'll be tight, but they can do it. I was wondering, and I have a couple of doctor's appointments that I can't reschedule during that 2-week time frame. If I was to, once I get notified, if that happens to fall for my delivery on a date that I have a doctor's appointment and can't be there, if I coordinated with that other location to just have my wreaths drop there and I go and pick them up from there, is that okay?
I mean, ideally it could be okay. There would definitely have to be some communication with the other location to make sure that
Yes.
they're okay. And if they were on the same truck, of course, making sure that. Depending on where you're at, just because there's a location nearby that gets them on a truck, does not necessarily mean yours would go on there. We do try to be thoughtful for the drivers, and on some of the stops they typically have 10 or 11 stops already on their load. So if it's 4 boxes, there's a good chance it's going to come UPS, and if it does come UPS, they will just deliver the boxes. You do not have to be present. There's no signature required. So if you have any concerns regarding that, and them being left there, depending on the area you live in, if they are going to be, I've come home with all my boxes on my porch before. My neighbors don't mess with them, but depending on where you're at, it might be something you want to just think about and consider having them delivered elsewhere. I would just encourage you to reach out to your regional liaisons. That's something that they can specifically help you with, taking a look at where you're at, what locations nearby, and consider all that. And I do also want to say, for anybody on here, we have in the system where you can put in an 18-wheeler accessible address, and then you're going to have your small pack address, which is like for UPS, FedEx. Please make sure that those 18-wheeler accessible addresses are actually 18-wheeler accessible. Trucks might, like moving trucks can go into neighborhoods, but some of our other trucks can't. That's not something that they go in and do all the time. And at the end of the day, if the driver comes somewhere and they say, I can't get in here. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not, you can either meet them elsewhere. Like sometimes they'll say, hey, I can meet you in this parking lot. And you can meet them there and pick it up. But we do have to respect the driver, and every driver has different abilities. A driver that's been driving for, 15 years might be like, oh yeah, no problem. I can get in there. Someone who's maybe only been driving for a year or two might not want to be able to, to navigate tight streets and turns. So just keep that in mind. And again, always reach out to your regional liaisons. They can take more specific one-on-one look, pulling up those address, pulling up your location, and kind of helping you make a plan for that delivery.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Julie,
This is Rich.
I have a question.
Okay, well, we'll let Patty go first because I see her, and then we'll let the next person go.
It was my understanding that with the $17 per wreath, the $5 back plan is something that would be returned to, in my case, the American Legion, and that the checks would be issued in, I think February, if I remember correctly. But what I heard today is that the $5 goes toward additional wreaths. So now I'm confused.
Nope. So we actually have 3 different fundraising plan options. We have that groups can choose to take a part of. So we have the $5 back, which is what you're talking about, where you get $5 back for every $17 wreaths that's sponsorship. We have the $5 forward. That's where instead of the $5 coming back to your individual group, the $5 would automatically go forward towards another wreath sponsorship. And then we have a no plan, and that's where it's just a straight $17 wreath. So if you are registered as a $5 back group, you will get those checks. They're going to go out monthly throughout the year. When we get into, crunch time, November, December, it would be that final check you would see in like the, January, February timeframe.
Okay, thank you.
Julie, this is Rich.
Hi, Rich.
Hey, hi. The wreath checklist, wreath-laying checklist, did I understand that's on the volunteer resource page? Is that where I find that?
Yes, on the volunteer resource page under the planning section of it.
Okay. And there's a separate link for that?
Yes, and that is in the chat. It's been shared a few times, and I'm sure someone will drop that right in the chat, nice and fresh for you so that you can find it a little bit easier as well. And there it is in the chat.
Okay.
Look at how fast they are.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cindy, you want to go ahead?
Yes, I just wanted to make a notation for all of us as listeners. And this is only because I haven't heard it said on any of the calls previously, the tally sheet this year is new. It's updated. If you have not touched it, please do not wait until the last minute. There are incredible instructions on it, but if you don't follow them, it will be very frustrating. If you have not touched Google Sheets before or done the Excel as a download, it can be very frustrating. I just wanted to remind everyone to touch it early and know how it downloads onto your computer and how you save it and how you print it. And thank you for the update. It is much user-friendly, more user-friendly, but you need to have a little learning curve with it.
Thank you for sharing that. It's always good to know. I didn't realize that there was, but I'm on it every day. So, I can't say that I have experienced that learning curve there because we helped create it. But so I appreciate you reminding everyone to use that. Yes, these resources that we have, definitely, access them sooner than later, because also we have more time to help you now as we get into November, end of November, early December. Everyone wants a little bit of, a little piece of the liaisons. They're getting lots of emails and phone calls during that time frame. So it is a little bit longer wait to get an answer from them. So take a look at those now. If you have questions, reach out and they can help you with those. All right. Any other questions before we wrap this up? Because we are at that 3:30 mark. And Karen, I do see your comment in there about when did the tally sheet change. There was just some updates to it this year to try to make it a little bit easier for you guys to use. We had made some changes last year. Some of the spacing was a little bit harder to use. So trying to make it more user friendly, like Cindy said, but like you download it, make sure it looks good for you, make sure it's, that download is working for you. It should be easier for you to use when you're out and about at your events and stuff this year. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. We appreciate you spending this very long time frame with me today. I got to talk so much to you guys. And we are going to meet again next month. Keep in mind, next month, the second Tuesday of the month falls on Veterans Day. So we are going to do our webinar on Wednesday, the 12th. So it'll be a little bit different day, and there will be an email reminder that goes out to share the information with you guys. But since you're all here, you get the scoop on a little bit early. And the slides and the recording for this will be up soon, so you have access to it. And if you have any other questions, reach out to your liaisons, and they're going to be happy to connect and help you with. All right, you all have a wonderful day.